Hey, John. I'm just here to listen in because I'm working on something else, and I
That
just was
sounds fun.
curious. I'll just be on mute.
Okay, thank you. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll get started. Good evening and welcome to tonight's public hearing. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. We have one case on for hearing tonight. It's case TP ENT 0324-00008, Mr. Car Wash, East Broadway Boulevard. I conduct rezoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council and make findings of fact, which I put into a written report along with my recommendation, which I then send along to the mayor and council for their consideration and for their final decision. My report will be based on the information submitted to me, which includes the rezoning application, the staff report, all written approvals and protests, all correspondence, and the testimony given at tonight's public hearing. I will also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. Tonight's proceedings are being recorded, so if you would like to testify, and I invite you to do so, please start by stating your name and your address, and please speak clearly so it will be recorded accurately. For rezoning cases, first I complete a preliminary report within 5 working days after the close of the public hearing. Then I prepare a final report. The final report will be issued 2 weeks after the close of the public hearing. For those of you who wish to receive a copy of the preliminary report and are not a listed party on the case, please send an email to tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov. Again, tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov, or call the planning department. A copy of the final report will be available from the Planning and Development Services Department, and I send the final report to the mayor and council. At the scheduled public hearing on the case, the mayor and council will then vote on the matter based on my recommendation, along with other factors. Tonight's public hearing will proceed in the following manner. I will open the public hearing and ask Mr. Gabriel Slater of the Planning and Development Services Department to give a brief presentation of the case. I will then ask the applicant to make his or her presentation. I will then ask to hear from anyone in the audience who wishes to speak. I will start by calling on anyone who has sent in an email or other request stating they wish to speak tonight, and then I will call on others who are here in the audience who want to speak. Since I cannot have any communication with anyone involved in the case outside of the public hearing, I would invite you to speak tonight if you would like to do so. After everyone in attendance has had an opportunity to speak, I will offer the applicant a chance to respond to any of the matters that were brought up. With those ground rules in mind, I would also add, please, if you can, mute your devices while others are speaking, because sometimes we get kind of feedback and that kind of thing. And there are, I'm somewhat informal on how I call on people. There's the raise hand function, which works well, or if people don't want to use that, they can just start and then I'll call on people, recognize people, and ask others just to wait. So with that in mind, Mr. Slater, would you like to present the staff report?
Sure thing. So this is rezoning case TP ENT 0324-00008. Mr. Car Wash on Broadway and Houghton. It's a request by the Planning Center to rezone a 1-acre parcel at the southeast corner of Broadway and Houghton from C1 to C2 for the construction of a new Mr. Car Wash location on a currently vacant site. This application is supported by Plan Tucson. It's in the neighborhoods of greater infill potential building block, potential for redevelopment of existing neighborhoods and commercial areas. Prior to being a vacant site, this was a Chevron gas station. The applicant has also submitted a concurrent plan amendment to the Houghton East neighborhood plan to increase the allowable height of non-residential structures on this specific parcel to allow the construction of their car wash tunnel. That request is been advanced to mayor and council, and it's consistent with 2 previous amendments, which increased the non-residential building height at other, I guess, other areas around the intersections of Broadway and Houghton and 22nd and Houghton. The car wash is set back adequately from the scenic route, Houghton Road. The applicant's made maximum effort toward landscaping along the scenic corridor within the constraints of the existing drainage basin on site, which intrudes into the property about 10 feet. They've located their equipment to minimize noise intrusion, and their color palette is based on scenic requirements similar to what Mr. Carwash had presented on the Tanque Verde and Bear Canyon location several months ago. They have access from Houghton and Broadway. Drainage is mostly unchanged on site because of the presence of existing basins. Subject to the attached preliminary conditions, approval of the rezoning request is appropriate. We did receive one email protest before the end of day yesterday and one additional protest today. There were no protests within the 150-foot area, and only one of the protests was from within the 400-foot notification. That concludes my presentation.
Right, thank you, Mr. Slater. Would the applicant like to be heard?
Good evening, Mr. Urino. My name is Lexi Well. I'm with the Planning Center. We're located at 2 East Congress in downtown Tucson. Thanks for hearing our case this evening, and I appreciate you accommodating the reschedule there for this case. As Mr. Slater mentioned, and he did a great job on his presentation, so I'll keep my remarks brief, and then I can follow up and answer any questions. But as Mr. Slater mentioned, this is a rezoning request to rezone a 1-acre property located at the southeast corner of Broadway and Houghton to develop a new Mr. Car Wash site. As Mr. Slater mentioned, it was previously a gas station, and I would like to add that the plans for that gas station did include a future expansion for a car wash. So in some fashion or another, a car wash has always been contemplated on this site in conjunction with the car wash or the gas station there. The gas station was demolished sometime in about 2016, and this site has remained vacant since then, which has created some, unsightly parcels there in the neighborhood. And so what it is we're proposing to do is develop a new Mr. Car Wash similar to every other location in the city. And what we're trying to do on this site, recognizing the constraints of fixed access points, drainage basins and infrastructure, etc., we're going to improve the scenic corridor there visually quite a bit. As of right now, there's no vegetation along Houghton Road in the detention basin. And so what we're proposing to do at the recommendation of the Planning Commission to meet the intent of the scenic corridor, we're going to be installing quite a bit of vegetation along Houghton Road in that basin. And that'll consist of a large, 5 to 7 canopy trees, as well as some understory to really enhance the scenic corridor, recognizing that it is a large scenic corridor in the city. And then additionally, we're going to be adding some additional vegetation to the site to further enhance the visual aspects of it, screen any visual viewpoints from neighboring properties, as well as create some buffers for sound as it travels from our site. The nearest residence is well over 380 feet away, separated by a large parking area or roadways. And so with the design configuration, by putting the vacuum bays closer to Houghton Road, we believe that there won't be noise impacts. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Willett. I don't have any right now. Appreciate it. We had a request to speak from Joan Carr. Ms. Carr, if you're present, would you start by stating your name and address, and then go ahead and say what you'd like to say? Not hearing from Ms. Carr right now. We can check back in with her later. Would anyone else in the audience like to speak?
I do have a comment and a question.
All right, would you start by stating your name and address, please?
Sure. My name is Regina Pugh. I live at 288 South Sycamore Creek Place in the Barrio Rincon neighborhood that borders the shopping center at the corner of Broadway and Houghton, where the Mr. Car Wash is planned. I just want to start my comments by saying to the city of Tucson, whom I believe were responsible for providing a mailing list for the initial neighborhood meeting that happened back in February, that 400 feet does not a neighborhood make. I realized that our HOA was apparently also sent a letter, but it was still a little disappointing to many in our neighborhood that such a small number of our neighborhood community were informed about this plan and personally invited to that meeting to share input. Personally, I'm not very excited about the proposal. I'm not one of the few that live within that 400-foot radius, so I'm assuming my opinion doesn't really officially matter, but I do believe that that corner does need developing. But I also believe that Tucson has plenty of car washes already. And nothing against the Mr. Car Wash company. I'm just not, I wasn't very impressed with the answer I was given at the last meeting regarding the additional height allowance of the building, because it was stated it would be necessary for the actual operation of the car wash. But when you look at the renderings, it looks to me like a good amount of the height seems to be in a tower. And unless there's mechanical equipment up there, I'm not sure why that was actually needed. And the renderings that were shared also don't seem to show all of the full operational equipment of the vacuum systems. I've recently had photos of the Mr. Car Wash that's being built on South Houghton down near Reeder Ranch, and their arms that come out over the vacuum stations that aren't in the renderings. So I'm just curious why those were left out of the renderings. So that's all commentary, but my specific question tonight is regarding the operating hours that are stated by the company. I believe it does say that they are planning to close the car wash by 7 p.m. each night, which I'm sure those nearby appreciate. What I'm wondering is, how is that going to be enforced in the future? Is that something that is just up to the company to decide, or is that going to be written into the requirements legally? And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pugh, for your commentary, your testimony, and for your question. Ordinarily, I would wait till everyone's had a chance to speak and then ask Ms. Willett to respond to the specific question you raised. But in this case, Ms. Willett, if you're comfortable answering the question that Ms. Pugh raised, would you please do so now? And then you can respond to anything else that she or anyone else has had to say when it's your turn again. Would that work for you?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to answer Ms. Pugh's question. Thanks, Ms. Pugh, for being here this evening, and I appreciate you being at the Planning Commission hearing as well. So to answer your question regarding how operating hours will be enforced, that's Mr. Car Wash's standard protocol. They don't stay open later anywhere in Arizona past 7 p.m. So that's one side of it. But to really get to the how will it be enforced is, as part of this rezoning application, we are presented with a series of conditions. And one of those conditions suggests that in order for us to develop this, we have to maintain those hours of operation. So at any point in the future, once this is built and operating, if those hours are deviated, that would be subject to a zoning violation there, and we would have to rectify that situation. And if we didn't rectify it, then we would be hit with some fees and or the ask to shut down our business. So we're committed to those hours of operations that we've said, and you know, we're subject to a use that's during daylight. And so in the winter times, that 7 o'clock comes a little earlier, if you will, just because it gets dark out and we don't operate in the evening times.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willett. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard?
Kathleen has her hand up.
All right, Kathleen, please start with your name and address.
My name is Kathleen Batson. I am at 10801 East Limberbush Place. I am on the board of directors of Silverado Hills HOA. I am not speaking for the HOA members, I'm speaking more for the board. While we do not actually border onto that commercial area, we are 804 homes that are incredibly impacted by the potential traffic and that was coming with the car wash. Houghton and Broadway is already infamous for huge numbers of car accidents. With the addition of the Houghton Reserve, which I believe is 200 plus homes, the idea that yet another Mr. Car Wash, when there are quite a few nearby, is being installed is just something we don't understand. The other thing that we don't understand as a board is even though we do not back onto that shopping center, we were never notified of any hearing. We had no idea any of this was going on other than hearing sort of vague rumors. I had called Mr. Car Wash several times and got nowhere with them. They kept saying, well, unless you have an exact address, we can't address it. I also called Paul Cunningham's office about it, and they had no information on it. So we really are quite concerned about the fact that we are such a large community and we were totally ignored in the process of the hearings and notification about what was going on. I am concerned about the hours as well. You're correct, it is not a lovely corner, but a car wash is not a lovely addition either. And we're just really concerned about it, and we really are not in favor of it by any means. And we're, you know, we feel slighted. We are one of the largest HOAs in this in this council district, and it's just unbelievable to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matson. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? I'll ask one more time whether Ms. Carr is present, because she did email and suggest she wanted to speak. Ms. Carr, are you there? And I'll ask one more time, is anyone else in the audience wanting to give testimony at tonight's hearing? Hearing no one, Ms. Willett, it's back over to you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on one of the questions that Ms. Pugh had regarding why the arms of the vacuums weren't shown in the rendering, and there's a reason for that. As part of the scenic corridor overlay, it requires that we set our buildings back appropriately, and so we'll be using a different vacuum system on this site than what you would typically see, just so that we can meet the height requirements set by that scenic corridor, as the equipment has to be set back at a ratio of 3 to 1, so set back 3 to every 1 foot in height. And so with the location and the constraints on our site, we're kind of limited to where those can go. And so by virtue of that limitation, we had to redesign those vacuum hoses and the arms that come in through there. So that's why you did not see those in the arms. And then the last thing I wanted to just mention real quick was the traffic concern on this property here, and that we did do a traffic study to evaluate not only what's going on the property today, but that does account for the cumulative impact of all the other developments going in and around the area. And so when our traffic finding or our traffic study findings suggested that there is adequate capacity on Houghton Road and Broadway for this use. And in all reality, the car wash generates a comparable amount of traffic as the previous gas station did, and or any other thing that would be allowed in the C1 zone, such as a fast food restaurant or something of that like. So we recognize the concern from traffic, and we'll continue to look at that as we work through the next phase in this process. But we believe that traffic is adequately accommodated on each of those roadways.
Thank you, Ms. Willett. I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight, and I'm closing the public hearing on case TPENT 0324-00008, Mr. Car Wash, East Broadway Road. I wish everyone a safe and healthy and wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Marino.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.